So one, you're a baby and you have a need. So when you have a need, you get triggered, you get aroused, and you notice you have a need and the need's not met. So one need could be like, I'm hungry. So then your stomach starts like, oh, I'm hungry. And then you get aroused and you make a noise like, I want mommy's breast or whatever. And then if you get it after you made some plea, some ask, then you get gratified and you build trust. But then if you have disorganized attachment or whatever, any of the other trauma attachment things, and you had to put your needs second, then you don't get gratified, or you don't get gratified consistently. You have to work for the gratification. Then you have this trauma bond, attachment break, all this other stuff. So then trust doesn't get developed, or you're trusting your ability to game the system, to rescue the parent in advance, or to please someone else, or to be perfect. And then if you're perfect, then you'll get gratified. So instead of 1, 2, 3, now you added 1, you sort of silence number 2, and then you do like dancing doll performance perfectionism or something, and then maybe you'll get 3, and then that'll be how you get your need met. Or you do 1 and you like silence your arousal, and then you have to fight for food or something, and then you get gratified. So you aren't building the skill to voice your needs and your lagging skills. Instead, you're building your skill to monitor for danger, or you're building your skill to make everyone laugh in the room, or you're building your skill for all these strategies to game the system for your survival, or to monitor if your parents are your caregivers are drinking too much, and if they're drinking too much, they're going to be angry. So you're not going to share your need when they're angry. You have to make sure that they're laughing or they're safe. Then you'll do your arousal and gratification. So you spend all this extra energy trying to build your fawn self, build a performance self to try to get your need met, and then you trust your ability to game the system. You trust your ability to perform to get your need met. You don't trust your ability to set a boundary, set a need, and then go out into the landscape and try to find who can deliver. How does this formula land? Then we'll try to get into definitions. I'll put a link. There's a copy of the clip art. Definition of trust, non-trust, and betrayal. Which one first? I think I sort of described trust here. So if you have a need, a skill, a desire, and then you can express it, and you can get it met, then you can have trust. And if you have a need, want, desire, and you can't, and you express it and it's not met, then you have mistrust. Expressing it, sharing it, setting a boundary doesn't work, so that creates mistrust. And then betrayal is you have a need or want, or you have an opinion. You try to express it, and then someone promises to gratify you, and then they rip the rug underneath from you, and then punish you for having the need. Then you spiral back to childhood, and you can't trust anyone in the world, and then you're just you're betrayed, and then you're hurt forever because your trust was used against you. I think Jordan Peterson talks about Dante his version of hell was at the bottom of hell was betrayal. So let's see if this clip adds anything more.
If you take any issue that produces negative emotion, an issue that actually exists, and you decompose it completely, you'll go all the way to the bottom. Anything threatening is reflective of threat and vulnerability itself, right? So it's like it's a single manifestation of something central and a relatively trivial manifestation. Maybe there's many, but if you delve into it deeply enough, you'll come up against the problem per se. One of the things you find with people, if they have an interpersonal conflict and you delve deeply into it, you often find an act of betrayal at the bottom. Someone betrayed them at some point, and they have a memory of that. Dante put the betrayers at the bottom of hell. What someone who betrays you does is entice you to trust them, so they take your best instincts, because trust is a form of courage and it's a predicate for society, and then they turn it against you. So
trust is a form of courage.
Betrayers at the bottom of hell. What someone who betrays you does is entice you to trust them, so they take your best instincts, because trust is a form of courage and it's a predicate for society.
Trust is a form of courage and is a predicate for society. Maybe that links to Ericksonian development. Come on, scale up better. Why is it so grainy? Okay, you guys have to read through the graininess there. So age 0 to 1. Trust versus mistrust. So based on Erickson's developmental stages, the first stage is trust versus mistrust, and then that opens the door to hope. Trust in the world around us and hope for the future. And children who don't have that end up having a negative outcome of distrust and fear, so they're cautiously trusting the world, but if anything looks like danger, then doubt comes in and self-sabotage comes. Oh, actually, wait. Doubt is number 2. So what's number 2? So, stage 2 is autonomy and shame. So if you have mistrust and you don't have autonomy, you have shame, then you don't trust the world and you don't trust self-efficacy. You don't trust your ability to get your needs met. You don't trust your ability to learn from experience. So you have self-doubt, and you have a bunch of fear. And then some people can use a superego hack to get annoyed and project guilt on anybody who has self-doubt and fear. Is that Chantal's example earlier? So sometimes maybe when children are parentified, they skip these 2 phases and then have to pretend with stage 3, age 3 to 6, they have to have initiative. It's supposed to be for yourself, but then you end up using guilt to try to manage the parents and everything else, and it messes up the whole system. And you get inferiority instead of industry, and you get confusion instead of identity, and it's just all a giant mess. So this was trying to give some background to Jordan Peterson, saying that trust is fundamental or something.
Courage, and it's a predicate for society, and then they turn it against you. So
predicate
threat
for society.
emerges, you get negative emotion. If you dig into it, you spiral down, 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 down. Every time they go down, because they're getting closer to the ugly truth, more and more emotion emerges. And usually what will happen is people will cry, or they'll insult each other, or they'll further the fight, or they'll run out of words, and they just stop before they actually solve the problem. It takes a lot of fortitude to get to the bottom. The Holy Ghost is the spirit of truth. That's a good way of thinking about it. Scientists who observe their data sets properly are guided by the spirit of truth. Otherwise, they just twist and bend the data to suit their career, for example. So imagine that you're oriented towards the truth. Okay, so now you have an aim. And that calibrates your emotions and it calibrates your judgment. And so if you're trying to mediate an interpersonal dispute and you have the right goal in mind, so the right goal might be peaceful, continued, productive, generous, harmonious existence.
This is a right goal based on privilege of having some sort of trust in the world. Somebody who grew up without that trust, who grew up with mistrust, shame, and guilt, they're not going to orient towards the highest good because it's about survival. That's a different goal. And it's not even about survival. It'll be sort of programmed in your unconscious that you might consciously think you're going after truth and good, but your behaviors are probably going to be driven around superego that's overly guilty, a lot of self-doubt because of shame, a lot of mistrust because you fear the world. You fear if you're too honest about your needs and wants or expressing your feral parts, you're going to get betrayed, you're going to get destroyed, you're going to be abandoned. Will someone come? You don't know. Will someone stick around? You don't know. Where's the danger? It's around any corner. You don't know what's safe. That's a downside of having unstable foundation of your being. If you can't trust the world and you can't trust other people, then hypervigilance, all those other scary feelings come. But back to his example, something about scientists that want to have like the greatest truth.
The right goal in mind. So the right goal might be peaceful, continued, productive, generous, harmonious existence, right? Then your emotions will calibrate so you can tell when the conversation is deviating from that aim. And if you're forthright in your aim, you can use your judgment to descend down and you can stay oriented while you're doing it.
Steve cannot do this. Honkage can't do this. Because you're spitting, you got to stay oriented.
Or you have to do it with extreme care. If you're a therapist, for example, maybe you want to show what a good therapist you are, and so you want to take over the process. You know, that's just a sin of pride. It'll take you.
So right here, one other clue is trust the process. Maybe at first you have to trust your attachment figure. You have to trust your support peer. And then as you trust somebody else, then you can now learn how to trust the process of the world, of learning, of growth, of learning from experience. But if you've been betrayed by childhood conditioning, where the caregiver groomed you to not trust the process, to not trust your intuition, to not trust that you're going to survive failing and get back up, then they disabled you from trusting the process, which means that you're going to fall for narcissists who overpromise and underdeliver. They love bomb you instantly and want to get married and all that stuff, and you trust the overselling because you're scared of risk. You're scared of risk because you don't trust the process. You don't have basic 1, 2, 3. You don't have trusting the process. You don't feel self-efficacy. You don't feel self-efficient. And you don't have self-motivation where you can feel like you can take initiative based on your self-direction instead of based on guilt and shame. How is this not heavy? You guys got to slow me down or something. Seems so obvious, but it's very dense. We're talking about shame and guilt and mistrust. I mean, this is heavy stuff. And we're talking about the bottom of Dante's hell, betrayal.
Maybe you want to show what a good therapist you are, and so you want to take over the process, you know.
So this is a problem with a lot of therapists, coaches, and narcissist experts. They want to take over the process because they don't trust the process, and they get validation for being a good therapist or coach or whatnot. So the risk of going to a lot of these experts is that if you, once it gets close to trauma, then the process has to take over, or in ISTDP, the UTA needs to take over. But if it's the therapist's ego identity, or it's the map is trying to be pushed upon you, then they're going to trust the map. They're going to trust their ability to manipulate the outcome instead of your intuition, instead of your natural growth, instead of your autonomy, or instead of your own initiative and autonomy and your own trust of your ability to navigate the world and intuition. They're going to trust the map. They're going to trust their skills as a helper, wounded healer. And then they co-opt the process.
That's just a sin of pride. It'll
The sin of pride. Yeah.
take you off the course.
And doom, and what happened.
Then, especially when you start to get deeper into things, you'll be in real trouble. Because the deeper down you go, the higher the price you pay for any sin that will knock you off the right path.
That's a bit depressing, but how accurate is it? Let's see.
Start to get deeper into things, you'll be in real trouble. Because the deeper down you go, the higher the price you pay for any sin that will knock you off the right path. You have to step carefully.
So this is my critique of Pankaj's stuff, because the deeper down you go, any off-the-mark sin comes at a bigger price. When you're higher up and you're away from the core pain, you can massage the language and you can sort of be a little off and it still sort of works. But as you get closer and closer to core betrayal, to core wounds, if you're not precise with your aim and target and the right perfect balance, then it comes at a bigger price. Simply put, the closer you get to core content, and you sort of know and you're projecting your map, and you fall on your face because you're a little off, your superego is going to say, hallelujah, I get to beat the shit out of you and stomp on you and choke you and say, you were wrong for not listening to me. The world's dangerous, blah, 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 and you regress like forever. Which is partially why going through all these levels by yourself is very hard, because your superego, number 2, 3, or 4, whatever, is going to hijack the whole process and say, I own you. Because people aren't addressing the core wound, trust and mistrust. If you have a wounded healer that cares about their identity more than you, then when you really reach betrayal wounds, they're going to co-opt the process. That's very depressing. Let me try to frame it. Okay, give me till Act 3. I'll try to frame it positively. But let's go back to what's somewhere on here, betrayal. If you go down,
Find an act of betrayal at the bottom. Someone betrayed them at some point. Come up against the problem per se. One of the things you find with people, if they have an interpersonal conflict.
So this is an interesting argument. So maybe any interpersonal conflict that is charged or that you're triggered by might be a doorway to your corporate betrayal pain. And the more extra charge you have in the interpersonal conflict, the more you're invested, the more it bothers you, the more you can't get over it, the more chance, if you just keep going down deep, you're going to get to your core betrayal, your core mistrust. Maybe betrayal is too big a word. It's just a core time you were duped at a young age, where your trust wasn't developed, and then you ended up on this part, the breakup cycle, the core betrayal pain. The superego and all the healers will make it complicated, or they'll make it really gradual, so it seems like you can control the process. But it's your, whether you have trust or mistrust, I'm making this argument, this is your basic operating system of how you orient it in the world. It's how you're navigating in the world. So even if you've been mistrust, if you've had your trust broken and now you have to control the process, you're trusting your ability to be a perfectionist. You're trusting your ability to be a people pleaser. So instead of trusting others and around the world, you're trusting your ability to fawn and jump through hoops to make the world not totally dangerous. So technically, trust and mistrust still has trust. You just don't trust the bigger process. You trust your will. You trust your superego. Your trust is imbalanced. You trust that your fish wound model is going to somehow lead you to Jesus heaven or something, however Pankaj pitched it.
And you delve deeply into it, you often find an act of betrayal at the bottom.
It might not be only one betrayal. There might be other ways, but maybe it's betrayal by the world. So betrayal by a person, or betrayal by the world, or betrayal of your own naiveness or own innocence.
Someone betrayed them at some point, and they have a memory of that. Dante put the betrayers at the bottom of hell. What someone who betrays you does is entice you to trust them. So they take your best instincts, because trust is a form of courage and it's a predicate for society, and then they turn it against you. So threat emerges, you get negative emotion. If you dig into it, you spiral down, 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 down. Every time they go down, because they're getting closer to the ugly truth, more and more emotion emerges. And usually what will happen is,
right there, closer to the ugly truth.
because they're getting closer to the ugly truth, more and more emotion emerges. And usually what will happen,
so as you go deeper, deeper down, if you're doing it alone, or you're doing it where you're triggered by a betrayer, more emotion comes out because you're getting to the deeper truth, and it's hard to digest the deeper truth. So then you're forced to project it onto someone else, or you're forced to not own it, or to block it, or to have desperate defenses. That's where this group is trying to build exposure and experiential containment and ego observing capacity, so you can digest and hold more ugly truths. And that's part of my presentation, to try to frame the truth uglily, or to start strong and ugly, but then new people sometimes get flooded by the delivery. But in order to help you, from my ethical perspective, if I'm going to help you deal with going deeper to your core truth, that means you have to build a muscle to tolerate
ugly truth.
Ugly truths. Your caregiver was a train wreck and didn't care about you, saw you as a nuisance, or saw you as an obstacle sometimes, or got possessed by whatever, and then acted out on you. That truth is hard. No amount of love and jumping through hoops would make your caregiver turn into a healed person. People don't want to take that in or consider it. It's just a perspective. We want to have that fantasy.
More and more emotion emerges, and usually what will happen is people will cry, or they'll insult each other, or
Insult each other. Is that happening on Discord? So if there's more insulting each other on Discord and VG, if we just ignore the insults and all the other stuff, just insulting each other means that maybe there's more progress getting closer to the core betrayal wound. But then the defenses and the superegos are busy to get away from the feelings. And it doesn't feel safe enough to feel the feelings because insults are flying back and forth. My hope would be that people are still getting exposure. But, I'm not sure if that's working.
they'll further the fight, or they'll run out of words.
They'll run out of words and say they're pinned or they're not pinned. Or they'll say, Pankaj is unpinnable. Pankaj is unhookable, while he keeps self-gaslighting himself about not being pinned or not being pinged. Why would someone who's unpinnable obsess about not being pinned or pinged?
And they just stop before they actually solve the problem. It takes a lot of fortitude to get to the bottom. The Holy Ghost.
They'll stop. So this is my obsession, to try to help people not just stop. How would I even do that? Huh. It is so hopeless. Ooh. Okay, so the request was define trust, non-trust, and betrayal. So we tried to address some of that. And are there follow-up questions about that? While I look for the Steve video. Where is the Steve video?
I have a question. If one of the parents already has a huge distrust, mistrust issue, even going to paranoia, is that going to influence how the child learns to trust? Because it gets this role model of everything is mistrust or distrust or paranoia. Would a child be able to learn some sort of trust?
Well, they're learning the mistrust. They're learning the paranoia. They're orienting around that. So that is, we call that mistrust, but that's still trusting the mistrust. That's still trusting there's danger. And then part of that trusting their danger is that your mind is going to look for evidence, cognitive biases of that paranoia. And your unconscious might project the paranoia to invite other people to act out the mistrust and the paranoia. So it sort of works in both ways.
Yeah, makes sense.
How come I can't find the Steve is pin clip? Maybe it was on Discord. Let's just go here.
Where's the evidence?
Yeah.
Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence?
Good point. Ponkage is here even when he's not here. I can summon his spirit. Where's the evidence of my arguments? Can trust be relearned? Okay. We have a case study that is in process. We haven't fully proven this with Brad. But I made a clip and I didn't fully understand the triangle of person, but we're going to see if I can make it make sense. I think it's the link instead of the corners, but I think I labeled it pretty close. Where was that?
What is the difference between current and here?
So this is the triangle of persons and triangle of conflict. This thing. It's not really that complicated of a map, but it is sort of abstract. At least the triangle of persons is. The triangle of conflict is sort of easier. But I think this video helps explain the triangle of persons, and if you don't understand, please share the confusions, because I think I got close, but I'm a little off on the mapping.
What is the difference between current and here and now?
People don't want to notice what's here and now. People will not say they're anxious. People will not say they're in transference. People will scream and shout about the defense and the other person to blame. They will act out all of this left area.
So that's scapegoat again, isn't it?
You're taking this anxiety here and now, and you're discharging it onto the scapegoat.
Said you picked up the scapegoat with me. Do you remember that? Yeah, but you called it out with your brother when you did sort of a podcasty thing.
Brad surprised me here, because the podcasty thing was a year ago. What happened back then? So now I have an edit, so I can go back and share that clip. So I called out Brad's situation where he was called Lyle.
You called it out with your brother when you did sort of a podcasty thing. Do you remember?
The last Saturday's meeting, somebody was really outraged about being deceived and duped, and he wanted to create a rule that I want to never experience that trauma again. So, deceived and duped, that is his betrayal pain. In the past, he was deceived, he was betrayed. Then he had a defense, a never again defense. And never again defense is there. Never again defense is here. And then the betrayal wound is here, the hidden feeling or impulse. Or in the simpler. So defense is there, hidden feeling, impulse is there. And this is a dig at the new wife. And he ended up being the scapegoat of that. This pain is linked to this pain back then. Is there any chance that... So Brad was being made fun of for like 10 years or a long time, being called Lyle instead of his name, because Lyle was the brother's kid or something, or the first husband's. The second husband's family was making fun of that. So he was the scapegoat, and then the trigger was a current. Oh, the trigger is that trigger is anything that triggers a feeling of being duped. The example gets better with Ponkage. This pain of being deceived helped your business. Is there any chance that you have better radar for spotting deception? And then he said, oh yeah, he saw the link there quick, and I said, do you want to reject this gift? So my half spin was to try to take, you have a never again defense, and your defense is now a radar for any sort of deception. So have you used that to turn it into a life skill? Just like a neocon used drawing to survive his childhood, and now he's a professional artist. At the same time, that doesn't get to the feeling the core pain and expressing the anger and processing the feelings. So it's not a full unlocking. So the full unlocking is to be determined. That's where this is a live case study. I might have mentioned that.
Called it a breakthrough of sorts. Anyway, look, it doesn't matter, but that makes me the scapegoat again. There's a familiarity for me to be the scapegoat.
This feeling is familiar, and the never again defense is familiar. Brad recognized that.
And it
And being the scapegoat and the trigger, who's the current trigger,
seems to be something that I'm doing myself.
well, that might be your repetition compulsion. So part of your unfinished business is going to script the other person to script the other person. So I think the other might be more OP link. That makes more sense to me than being at the corner. So the OP link is here, and then when you get taken over, you're the OT. Your transference gets you to focus on the other. So Brad goes here, Pankaj goes here, and then this gets abandoned. No one's interpreting the transference, why Brad is over-triggered, and why it's linked to his past pain of being deceived. All the energy is between the OT link and the OP link, Pankaj and Brad. And if somehow Pankaj gets destroyed, he doesn't have to feel this or he gets even for this, but it's not enough. No amount of destroying Pankaj is going to get the adequate revenge for his past years of being deceived as a child. Brad is back. You can get more on the rewatch, or we can rewatch it later to put you into the right scapegoat that fits your
settle down now. Sorry about that.
Your childhood unfinished. So part of your unfinished business is going to script the other person to put you into the right scapegoat that fits your childhood unfinished business. So the OP link might be that our unfinished business, our pain is scripted to the other person unconsciously. Or a good manipulator is going to read our wound and going to try to poke it. So I think the other is at the OP.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So your parent and distant past, the hidden feeling and impulse here. Has to be held in the new relationship, in the transference canvas, which would be the TP, the transference and the past, the therapist in the past, the group, the co-historian that will try to make space and invite the past into symbols, into language, into containment. That needs to be invited and consciously contained. Otherwise, it's held through the other two. It's acted out. Because acted out, you don't have the language and you don't have the memory bank, so it gets acted out between you and some scapegoat, or you as a scapegoat and someone else. Skill.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my head around.
Integrating this part is hard.
This one. It's actually, this
Yes.
is tricky. It was very tricky.
We're close, but yeah, I think the more there's language to try to invite the pain of being deceived in your past betrayal, you'll get a little deeper towards the core betrayal wound. And then now when you can see how you're contributing to the repetition compulsion, you can stop your part. You still can't stop other people trying to take advantage of it. But you can try to limit your extra bleeding and extra reaction. And then you can now use other people as conscious scapegoats, conscious projections to try to help you get close to the past and integrate it.
Do you think there's projective identification in this a lot?
both ways.
Yeah.
I think your unconscious is scripting just like Pankage's unconscious is scripting. And then oftentimes we find people that feel like our abusers. And those unconscious scripts projectively identify both parties to act out the roles.
Yeah. And part of the stuff with Pankaj is unwanted identity too, or an attempt. It's an attempt at unwanted identity. I could see it
Yeah.
with Steve O with you trying to poke around to see what he could do to upset you, and I think they used a mushroom trip or something on you as an attempt. They're pretty clumsy though.
Steve's defined game is really sloppy. It's almost funny, but it's still sort of, it hurts because it's kind of stupid.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like that's the frustration. It is so dumb.
It is so dumb, and he's trying it. That's like it hurts because after all these years of running this group, why is he using this? Why
Well, that's what I mean.
can't he
It's
be
like,
more clever?
for fuck's sake, what is it? Malignant autist and cycloptic borderline. That's you and me. And Chantel, I think, Chantel's been labeled as a malignant autist as well. It's charming.
So isn't that matching your pain of being deceived? So you were mislabeled as Lyle. So now you're being mislabeled by a very sloppy joke in your face.
Yeah, this is exactly what I was thinking. Hang on, let me turn the camera around so you can see me. So I'm just having roadside breakfast. Hang on, that's better. Yeah, it's exactly what's going on. But I think being called Lyle was equally as stupid. And
Yeah.
that's the same thing as being called a cycloptic borderline. It's as stupid as that.
Yeah.
How do you fight that? Well, you can't fight it because that's what they want you to do. So how do you sort of dance with it? It's really interesting.
Well, one, you use the opportunity to see your past pain, what buttons they're pushing. And then my level is trying to say, what is Ponkage's buttons? And then what is Steve's buttons? And I'm going to try to poke their buttons. So I can take advantage of the OP link. I will be the other to try to find their past pain. So a Ponkage, I'm using Ponkage and Steve, I'm using they're poking their own eyes out. Their strategy is like, I don't see anything. They're just like, what the fuck is wrong with you idiots?
Well, I'm with you, right? Because that's how I view it. I go, you're going to be fucking kidding me. But maybe it's the stupidity, which is the problem. Oh God, I had it a second ago. The stupidity is dehumanizing. So
Yes.
me being called Lyle is completely dehumanizing and erasing me from the planet, as is calling me a cycloptic borderline, as is calling you a malignant autist.
Yeah. That's where I tried to use these two memes. So
Yep.
poking the eye, and then the dangerous eraser that messed up SpongeBob world for one episode. If you erase your memories, you're erasing your memories for learning and growth. That's kind of an idiotic strategy, this form of dissociative amnesia. And then with Pankage,
It's just childish and stupid. That's what I can't stand about it.
Is it a form of self-sabotage? Because if you erase yourself or a part of yourself, you're sabotaging yourself.
sure, it's not helping your growth, or it's transference.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as you're in transference, you're using the relationship to contain the fight, and then you're giving away your power because you're not feeling your impulse. You're not getting your grief, so that you can learn and grow. You're dumping your grief onto the other person as a substitute parent, and you're doing it in a way that they want to punish you. So you're not really helping them as a proxy. You're helping them to be a repeat failure, your projective identification. So then this feeling gets discharged onto them, and you don't learn from the feeling, and the feeling keeps coming back. The memory keeps coming back. It's not integrated. So self-sabotage, repetition, compulsion. That was this thing. Why people keep reliving the same damn pain. Unconscious tendency to replay old conflicts and traumas in new situations. There's two parts. There's a buried drive, a denied expression, and then there's a desire to master the old trauma. So there's a desire to make sense of it, master it, to not be deceived again. I think this is way too heavy for the new people now.
The other thing is I think with Pankaj and co, it's this nonsensical, where the fuck did it, for me, it's being on the receiving end, is where the hell did this come from?
Yeah, that's
Because there's no context to it. So you're trying to, can you say, oh, it's because Ellie left, or is it because of this, or did I say something? And that's part of the game. It's to keep you guessing. But I'm not sure they know either. They just need an enemy.
They don't know either. That would be my read too.
Yeah.
But their past is stirred up, so they need an enemy to contain their past.
And they choose the two biggest characters in the room, arguably, is you and me, Deef, with Chantal probably in there as well.
We can be the substitute parents. That's transference. That's
I think so. I think
repetition,
we
compulsion.
sort of represent parents.
That's also this.
Rather than be in an interpersonal conflict with her, you help her see her conflict with her desires. Rather than be in an interpersonal conflict with her, you help her see her conflict with her desires. Rather than be in an interpersonal conflict with her, you help her see her conflict with her desires. Rather than be in an
So that's the TP link. That's the transference. And then the past link to see that, to play the role of an adult to say, this is your inner conflict. If you don't have the UTA, if you don't have their will buy-in, that's where I'm trying to shortcut the process by trying to reflect back to Pankaj, his pitifulness. Like this one or this one? Oh, this one is not as pitiful. I was waiting for Pankaj to come back for this one. But maybe you can hear it. I gotta turn on my Discord noise.
I'm sick of you.
What would you like?
I'd like you to fucking piss off. That's what I would like. Because you're a bad news.
You're a bad news.
You're fucking bad news for everyone here. I'm sick of you.
I'm sick of you. Anyone notice the whininess?
I'm fucking sick of you.
Yeah, it's
fucking
pathetic,
bitch,
isn't it? And
cunt.
there's a little break in the voice, and
Because he can't stay in the rage. Rage is hard. It's pushing his edge, so he is getting exposure and working his system. But this is all performance from my read.
Yeah, it's lacking
He's
fire.
assigning. Fire.
Yeah, no fire there.
Yeah, no fire. Yeah.
Oh.
I'm sick of you. You have no shame. You said, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have behaved like that. And you do the fucking same thing again. You have no shame. Just shameless piece of shit.
And then now seeing their defenses, this is just projection. Well, he still does the same thing. And that's sort of the scripting. If we can be outraged about someone else doing the same defense, then we don't have to judge ourselves so harshly for doing the same thing. That's the beauty of moral outrage. We judge someone else for using this sort of a similar defense. Hatred shows you where your boundaries are, or whatever. What was that?
Your hatred is extremely important. It tells you what is missing inside you. Your hatred is extremely important. It tells you what is missing inside you. Your hatred is extremely important. It tells you what is missing inside you.
So when you have moral outrage and you dump it towards someone else and you judge a certain behavior, a lot of that is a way to escape your own self-judgment. Because you're playing parent to someone else. Why are you invested in hating somebody else's behavior? From an adult standpoint, why do you care so much? The only reason you care is because there must be some sort of transference. There must be some sort of past pain that this situation in person is, or some corollary thing is pulling up this old pain. So you must discharge it onto somebody else, because that's why the feeling is down here. It's hidden. You want defense and transference to get away from the affect, because as you go deeper towards the betrayal, any off move, any slightly off move is a giant overcorrection. It's a giant shame. It's a giant negative feedback. That's why this group is trying to build capacity for exposure and experience, but then it's also giving you the tools to make you sharper and sharper so you can stay deeper and deeper to your core wound to get to the ugly truths of you and the world and everything. It's not, shadow work and self-work is not pretty. I'm sick of you.
I think
Sick of
Ellie's
you.
response to that said it all, don't you, Deef? She maintained her composure with that rather well, I thought.
Yeah. I probably was like trying to encourage her to not escalate back, but
Yeah,
Ellie
don't
can
bite.
take the attacks. Or it's an attack on a superego, so a defense can't die, so you have to attack the wound. But it's once you attack Ellie's inner children, she falls apart, so it's kind of hard to do anything more.
But it's
You want to
interesting
attack the defense, yeah.
her question to Pankaj is the one that she hates the most, which is, what do you want?
Well, that might be transference too. Let's see
Yeah.
what she says. I think she says that soon.
Still shameless, flat face, no second person. How can I get out of this? How can I weasel myself out of this? That's the whole process going on. I'm sick of you. They brought the signal as the noise being signal that it's a real threat. That's what I think happened. I'm sick of you.
How do you heal a wounded?
It's not my responsibility.
Oh, she said what she wants earlier in the clip.
Especially if you're not sincere.
Pay attention to the neck. Any sort of big sigh.
Not sincere.
But he's making He's making a sincerity plea, but if you look at all his behavior recently, it's incredibly insincere.
Yeah, but that's how transference works. This is the next level. So when people project and get outrage on you or yourself, that's a clue to unintegrated stuff, to self-betrayal. That would be the next level for today's meeting, not to talk about betrayal, because betrayal wounds is trying to get you and other people to betray themselves. That's where the betrayal wound ends up being self-hell, or that's why these jabs hurt so much. That's why the serpent was taking over. That's why anything more here?
I said, oh, you actually lie and you think it's okay. I'm sick of you.
But did it work? We have too many channels, so I can't really find the pity clip. But let's get back to the case study, right? We're already sort of Act 3, and then maybe we scared off one of the new people, or maybe she became enlightened. The natural thing is you feel the transference in the here and now, and you jump to defense and project. So you feel the transference and you jump to defense, so that you jump to the OT link. I think that makes more sense than saying you're at this corner, even though you are, because that's here and now, but you put your attention on the other. So you focus on the link. Action.
Yeah.
That means this is being held with two people. So really, Brad should be like here at the OT link. And then Pankaj should be at the OP link, maybe here. Though the transference is in Brad, so it could be here and here. And that's a way to get away from the feelings. But Pankaj probably feels Brad's feelings more. He feels it past, so that's where Pankaj is being scripted to act out Brad's pain of betrayal. And then Brad doesn't even feel it. If Brad is possessed by the transference, Brad is feeling like moral outrage that Pankaj is doing something horrible, all bad. So he's up here in the OT. And then he's scripting Pankaj here, and then at the same time in Pankaj's triangle, Pankaj is probably up here. His transference is being triggered, that Brad reminds him of some childhood something. And then Brad is over here. So it's really OT link and TP link, and then the OT link and the OP link. So the other transference link and the other past link. And then the transference to past link is abandoned by both people. Because if you're in an insult battle with someone else, who feels safe enough to say, oh, do you feel your past? Do you feel vulnerable? Do you want to talk about your past and your vulnerability while we're insulting each other? Who does that? You want to strangle the person and you want them to disappear from the earth, and they want to do the same thing to you. There's no space to address the TP link. There's no space to address transference and past feelings. But then if you go into therapy and you try to address the transference and past feelings, you don't have the current situation triggered. You don't have the anxiety. You don't have the charge. So then you can just intellectualize the stuff and you still don't get close to the feeling. Very tricky. that means this is being held with two people. Because this wound was held by you and the caregiver, the abuser, and you were divorced. You weren't witnessed. So you want someone. So this wound was divorced, so it's stuck in your system. It's stuck in a flashback. I want to witness you now, but since you're scripting it, your inner child probably wants the person you're insulting to witness you. But what are the odds of that? That's self-sabotage. You're disgusting. You're throwing moral outrage and disgust at someone else. Because you're making them your parent and they're making your parent and all that transference, whatever shit. And then your inner child wants that person to give you unconditional love. Trauma bond. There's no way Tim can follow this, but there's a rewatch if you want to watch after this. And there's more. There's a whole YouTube channel with lower dose videos or covering this stuff from other angles. This is chartering new territory. That's why it's a bit, it might be a bit dense. I want someone to witness you now, but since you're scripting it with OT, other transference, the OT link. OT and OP, that'd be my correction after doing the edit. So that's acting out through the other, both the past and the transference. But no one's interpreting the transference past link, this one. And it might take a couple tries to get the interpretation right. And that oscillating is to keep this hidden feeling and impulse hidden. Because this is the end of the world if you go here. And then that also fits this map where you need to both address the buried drive, denied expression, but also mastering the old trauma. So you must repeat the trauma and then you must not die from it, and you must sort of get your voice heard. But you're not going to get your voice heard by the replacement projection person because they're not your parent, and then it's a setup for repetition compulsion. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to, number one, spot the loop. So that's what we did with the chart, mapping out. Where is it? So this is a work in progress between Brad and Pankaj and some other people. Oh, there. So we mapped it out here. So that's part of spot the loop. And then we're trying to make an argument to say the cost of this, if you project all the pain as Pankaj is all bad and not take the opportunity to try to find the betrayal wound, the thing at the bottom, then you're going to keep repeating and you just find a new person to replay the loop. Number three, the thing is you want to unlock the feeling. So the feeling is feelings of being betrayed, deceived. Where is it? Daniel. These feelings. So anger and grief is probably underneath here. And maybe fear. So when we can unlock the feelings and we can now stop replaying the pattern with people, we make links, past, present, future, chain is felt and named, and then the compulsion falls apart. Old defenses are replaced with adaptive capacities. Patient is freed. Replaying to reliving to releasing. So we want to have a lived experience of the memory. And then this is a case study of how it sort of happened with Chantal, but I thought this was funny because I liked the way I said a certain thing. So I thought it was funny because of how terrible I was at containment, but also how it still works because you don't have to be all enunciating. You'll see. Maybe, or maybe I don't sound as bad. Others in the world are, yeah, it's very exposing.
Yeah.
Very harsh. Spotlight is painful.
It's not painful, it's...
See, I labeled it wrong, and it still works.
overexposed. Naked.
Yeah.
Naked. That's
And then, oh, okay. How do I keep up?
correct. Actually, you gave me the opportunity to find my own words, because if it's wrong, I can feel it in my system. Like, nope. Like this like, if the needle goes on a record wrong, that's that sound and that, so then my system sort of startles, and then I have to actively search to find my words.
That's where getting someone to get a no is actually sometimes just as effective, if not more. Because if you get them to say a yes, you've co-opted the answer.
Which can be helpful too, because if I'm
sometimes
too
it's helpful,
stuck,
but
yeah. So it's a
well,
balance.
that's when you're really stuck, and then maybe someone can help. But if a wounded healer is too aggressive and gives the answer before the intuition or the stuckness, then it's the UTA of the therapist instead of the patient.
Yeah. That's that rushing and pressuring.
The rushing might be a sign of anxiety. So then the wounded healer is responding to the anxiety, not to the situation.
His or her anxiety. Yeah. Yeah, I can sense that.
So, yeah.
Naked.
My answer. Yeah.
That's correct. Like,
yeah.
I think, or it feels like everyone can see through me. Yeah, can see through me.
Maybe that's a very young part. Big sigh.
Oh, this is scary. Yeah.
This part. You're brave. You're brave.
That's good, because I like courage.
Yeah, but
It's scary.
I think I just made up an answer. Brave.
It sounded weird, and it was like it was surprising in some way. I said, huh? What did he say? But at the same time, it would be something I would say as a mother to a child. So
yes, maybe that's energy.
at that simple level, I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense. My inner child felt encouraged.
You're like a child is facing the stuff, and then as an adult, you're like, oh yeah. So, but you know the child, you're brave. Keep going.
Yeah, somehow it worked, because at that moment I had both of them. Like there was this child actually almost sitting on my lap, and then me as an adult, and me switching the whole time between them.
Oh,
Like,
but that might be you in the triangle. At least two parts, maybe. Or maybe
yeah,
you,
makes sense.
parent and current, and then maybe I'm sort of trying to help translate.
Yeah,
Or,
yeah. 100%. Because I was,
so then it's
I
oscillating,
had no, yeah.
and it's holding the two.
Yeah. Fucking him.
Yeah.
What did I say? Okay.
Said, yeah, fucking am. I said, yeah. I'm patient. You're
Yeah.
learning to be more patient. There's no need to rush. It's naturally happening. You're making tons of progress in 45 minutes. That's a lot. The territory you're covering.
I'm actually relying on you, on the trust.
So there, it's addressing the betrayal wound. It's addressing this 1, 2, or 3. At least 1, 2. It's also slowly trying to address trust as sharing power, good enough predictability, and good enough control. And predictability is we're trying to map out the reality. And we're trying to make whatever decisions work. So, you're brave, yeah, whatever the fuck I said. Let's make it work. Let's trust the process.
Because
I'm just being with your aloneness and helping you navigate, or just keep an eye on things. That's all. Doesn't take that much to be a parent, or to hold space, or to be gentle. That might be oversell. I think I'm correct. Pretty easy. I guess you have to be patient. I guess, yeah, that is a skill.
I have to feel that you're patient.
Uh-huh.
I've got to feel that.
Yeah. This might be an unmet need. So
Yeah,
she needed
100%.
someone who was patient. She needed the gratification of someone who was patient.
Yeah.
So that invites more.
Yeah, because if
More
I get the
trust needs
opposite,
to come up.
if someone is invading already my space or hurrying me up or pushing me in some way or having these expectations, I can feel it and then I withdraw and I perform because
Because that was the performance. You break out from seeking needs.
Yeah. I push mine away and then I conform to the needs of the other person, the one who is hurrying me up, and because apparently their needs are then at that moment more important, which I know from my childhood.
You start meeting their gratification instead of yours.
Yes. Yeah.
So, risking trusting patience, and you're also expressing it. You're verbalizing.
I have to feel that you're patient.
Uh-huh.
I've got to feel that.
Yeah. Holding space and being patient and gently encouraging.
Not rushing me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, end of that clip. So the case study, and then is this linked to the same memory juxtaposition process? Or a shortcut to reconsolidate your memories is to find your core assumption, core need, and or the way the world should be. Have that. So a rough guess is one core need was Chantal needed someone who was patient so that she could trust that. And then her belief system before was that she couldn't trust it, so she had to gratify the other person. She had to silence herself and cave to the other person's anxiety. So then those two were the two beliefs that were brought to consciousness at the same time that she had to wrestle with. Or if I do this, I'll die. Or this is totally off limits, and then you need juxtapose that with some present moment reality, which has dissonance.
Yeah, massively. That's where I got the headache from. Like, I couldn't imagine that it would be real that someone would be patient. Yeah.
Because the truth was here, and then the juxtaposition was the real experience of someone being patient, which was here.
Yeah. And then you later proved it again, because there was a somewhere in the process where I was invited to break down, and I had like, no, I'm not ready yet. And then you said, you take your time. So that was the proof. I still get
Multiple
emotional
experiences
from it.
Yes, that's a goal. As you get closer down to the betrayal wound,
Yeah.
you get closer to your tenderness, to your emotions. So you're integrating more of this.
Yeah, far more anger and murderous rage. I had this whole week such a range of anger going on. I didn't know I had such a big range. Yeah, I mean, I don't even
Learning
think it's
your
normal.
range, your range of anger. Yeah.
So that comes up, and then also this tenderness, vulnerability that comes up.
Yeah, anger and sadness and vulnerability. So that's all the stuck feelings and emotions are coming up. And getting integrated, hopefully.
Yeah, I just literally go lie down or sit and then wait until something comes up. Often it's a visual or some word that comes up, like that's important, and then if I got it, then the whole murderous rage or the irritation or pissed offness just goes away. It disappears instantly the moment I understand what was the message.
Oh, once you get the symbol.
Yeah, the symbol. Where did I write
the
it
message
down?
is there, has the answer, has the medicine. There's a message, the message is there.
Figure out the why behind the what. Figure out the why behind the what.
What is the purpose in my current pain? What?
And it integrates, or the charge changes.
Yeah, like instantly. Actually, it's just gone. Then there's, I would call it peace, but that's not the correct word. Sort of satisfaction. I don't know.
Satiation.
Is that the word?
Wholeness. Integration. Equanimity. Equality. Balancing. Resequencing.
Jesus, what a word. No, I'm looking for a simple word. Ah. I love the intellectualization, but it's not going anywhere.
Satisfied.
Yeah, something satisfied, peaceful, gratified, I think is most.
Oh, well, that's in the chart. Yeah, gratified.
Yeah, gratified. Yeah. That's something like, yeah, I got it, and now I'm fine. Yeah, that. I got it, I'm fine. Yeah.
Aroused and you made sense of it.
Yeah.
Then you're got trust and gratification. Congratulations.
Yeah, one of the words that came up was indifference. So I get like murderous rage, furious if I meet indifference. So that's one of these core, how call it? Part of the core wound, I think. You have to, because there was so much I made notes, so I have to look back for the exact words.
Indifference. So the charge is turned to indifference.
Yeah, if I spot something that like I sense there's indifference, there's this huge reaction to it. I literally want to kill.
Oh, that's a trigger from other people's indifference?
Sorry. Yeah.
Sure. Look, we have Mouse. She missed all the case studies. Let us start over.
Yeah. Oh, but Kelly's here. He can make a summary. He's good at that. If he wants to.
Nah, I'm going to be indifferent.
Oh.
I'll let Dave start all over again.
AI
You're
companion.
so funny. You're so fucking funny.
He learned that, or he's improved that.
Yeah.
Where is my AI companion? Pop out. So let's finish this clip. You hold those two next to each other. And it causes a big headache, and then you update to the new map. And sometimes you don't even need the second part. You just have to refine your core childhood belief that if I say this, I'll die. Or the world should be this way, and you just shove it in your face every day, and then you'll force reconsolidation. Hold those two next to each other. And it causes a big headache, and then you update to the new map. So that's where you sort of need an external person to sort of be the invalidation. I guess you could do it with a journal or a video or something, but having an embodied person to be a limited reparent. I think that's schema therapy's term. Or ICDP to have the therapist to be the transference canvas, or to be the triangle of persons.
Because there has to be a connection. For me, at least, I have to feel a connection, a chance to do it differently. And I can do, videos are good for insights and this intellectual level, but my system needs feelings. I need an experience. Explanation is, of course, explanation is good because
the need of an experience, not an explanation. The need of an experience, not an explanation. The need.
Explanations aren't good enough.
They're helpful, but to a certain degree. Because it's not because my brain understands it that the rest of my system is online too. Because that's not the case.
Yes, the experience allows mastering the old trauma or reconsolidating the two memories. And then you update to the new map. Force reconsolidation. To hold the split, to make conscious your hidden conflict, your hidden judgment on the world, your hidden righteousness, your hidden conflict, your hidden judgment on the worldness. So you gotta find what the core glue that's holding together the endless puzzle, the fragment, the new future. You gotta find that main thing and integrate it, bring it to consciousness, juxtapose it to reconsolidate your memory, and then you get the energy back. Gratification, you get the energy back. Ooh. What are we at? Summary time. How do we summarize this? Did we cover betrayal, mistrust, trust? Do we give some case study examples of how tricky it is to dive into deep betrayal wound, and then how it gets acted out in the transference, and then we need a therapist or a group or a co-historian to help interpret it or help be a witness to encourage it. Where is that part, John? This part.
Rather than be in an interpersonal conflict with her, you help her see her conflict with her desires. Rather than be in an interpersonal conflict with her, you help her see her conflict with her desires. Rather than be in an interpersonal conflict with her.
Even if we're not into an insult war, if we're into a superego, this is the way you need to heal. I'm going to shove down the truth down your throat. That's still an interpersonal conflict. The conflict has to be located in the person. If you try too hard, if you're triggered by your anxiety and you want to help them more than they want to help themselves, then you're jumping into interpersonal conflict. That's where it's tricky to be in the middle of don't want to attack and don't want to over rescue. You have to be in the middle. That's tricky. I have to map that out more, or maybe it's not mappable. That's part of what this year's goal was.
You help her see her conflict with her desires. Rather than be in an interpersonal conflict with her, you help her see her conflict with her desires.
So there's a desire to heal, there's a desire to trust, and there's a desire to cling to the old defenses. Because the old defenses say, the world isn't trustworthy, the world is dangerous, I'm not allowed to speak my voice, I'm not allowed to grow up. These old defenses are very repetition compulsion, they'll self-sabotage. So you want to awaken the desire to heal, and you want to sort of prove it. And then by proving that, and that person holding it in their head, that's reconsolidating. That's reconsolidation. Hold those two next to each other. And it causes a big headache, and then you update to the new map. Force reconsolidation. Reconsolidation. Hold those two next to each other. And it causes a big headache, and then you update to the new map. Force reconsolidation. Pressure to consciousness of splitting. But that increases anxiety and causes a headache. People want to split. That's easier. So We have to have enough trust to stay in the anxiety. And we have to be a bit neutral.
Relax. It's not your fault. It's just what he does. It's what he does with everyone. It's nothing personal. Relax. It's not your fault. It's just what he does. It's what he does with everyone. It's nothing personal. Relax. It's not your fault. It's just what he does. It's what he does with everyone. It's nothing personal.
But it feels super personal. It feels more personal than personal. How do you stay in the frame that it's not personal, that we're being used as a transference projection? It's hard. It's hard not to be triggered.
But is it even humanly possible? I mean, how
Probably not.
advanced...
You need to have aphantasia, and you need to have a broken autobiographical memory.
Yeah, lucky you. I don't have that.
Yeah. I don't have a shortcut for people to get my aphantasia brain damage.
I don't want it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I like all my visuals. It sucks if you don't have it.
Well, I think maybe if you have, if you work off your charge, so if you handle your Oedipal complex, and you're stable and you don't have extra buttons on your stuff, so then you can be more neutral to someone else.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
That would be an alternative. That's a bigger ask. We're working on that. Maybe Tim will figure it out for us. That's what new people are for. We need a roadmap, Tim, and we're going to ask you, the new person, to give it to us, because that's unfair. Make you the savior for our difficulties. If you're a good codependent, you'll just jump to and work your ass off on somebody else's goal. So let's go back to January 4th. Are we addressing my argument back here that Mouse helped introduce? Because I know Mouse hates, doesn't like seeing herself on video. Though this isn't as cringy, so maybe it will be better.
So my first dream of this year, I'm sharpening a sword. Maybe I should try to dream about a shield instead.
You could have both. Why not?
Oh, but I need the shield. I don't have the shield.
Why do y'all need, like, weapons and a shield? There's, like, nothing happening.
There are black dogs, Deef.
Yeah,
Which is your id.
They're very harsh super ego. The super
It's
ego
your id.
becomes the monster in
That's
the
a super ego trick.
Yeah.
But to heal them.
That's a trick. You can't run away from yourself. Or you can keep running away from yourself, but you still end up getting chased after by yourself. There's nothing happening.
Yeah, but look what happens when we don't have shields and swords in the group.
Well, look what happened. I didn't have a sword and a shield and my fucking eye got popped out. Like, I clearly need to do something differently.
So you encourage us to drop our shields and our sword. You encourage us to drop our shields and our sword. So we do that, and what happens?
We get fucking lynched.
Correct. We get slaughtered every time, and the group doesn't grow.
Look, I'm being outnumbered. What was the purpose of my argument?
I don't know.
Was my argument to gaslight, or was it my argument to let people see through their own cloud?
I don't know.
Consolidation? I also don't know.
If you haven't formed boundaries of the mind, then these weapons
Wisdom.
and shields are going to be just like ill-used.
If you have a bunch of weapons and you can't measure internal, external, you're going to use your weapons. And other people will recognize that you're over-defended or over-weaponed and use it against you. You need to map out your... Other people will recognize. And how will they recognize? They will recognize because they have this OP link. So other people can see your triggers and wounds better than you. So they'll use your triggers against you, the more defended and more weapons you have. And then that invites the rest of the world to continue holding it through transference, OT link and OP link. And your past feelings don't get mapped out. They get abandoned again through self-betrayal. Over-weaponed and use it against you. You need to map out the extent of your mind, yes. And that's by having video or someone else help do this TP link, transference and past, and someone to symbolize and describe it and map out the links. Because you act it out, because it's autopilot. That's usually how it happens. Before, after, during, all those three domains. Your past, present, future, all three domains. You have to have all your time signatures mapped out. Mind, yes. Before, after, during, all those three domains. You always have to map out the boundaries of your mind and other people's minds. That's relationships. The answers are not the answers. What are the how?
Yes. The question is,
I give different answers depending on the situation. I am not the source of wisdom. The UTA in you is the source of wisdom. I just throw shit out there to get you to get your own answer.
You're so cool, Deef. I take back what I said about hating you.
Say what? She hated me? And then she changed her mind? Does that mean she'll change her mind again and hate me and then love me and back and forth? Is that like a trauma bond? And that was the purpose, to get you to hate me. Now you see through that. It's not about me. It's not about the Big Daddy. It's not about God. There is no one person that's ordering all the shit around. That's transference. That's childhood, whatever. You have to grow up out of that shit.
Oh no!
Oh no. Whatever. You have to grow up out of that shit.
Oh no!
Oh no. Let's end on that.
That's all, folks.
Ooh.